students. My name is Donald Davis, and I'm a storyteller. I usually come to Camp Bethel for the Sounds of the Mountain Storytelling Festival, and many of you may be making field trips there to Camp Bethel to see us in normal times. But right now, with COVID, we're coming to you virtually. So here's a story that you might hear if I could actually come to your school, or if you could actually come to a festival and see me. And I hope this works as well as it can. When I was a little boy, my favorite thing was going shopping with my mama. But I don't think she liked to take me. Some mornings we would get up and she would look out the window and it was maybe a pretty day and she would say, "Oh, it's such a nice day today. I think we should go to town." Well, in a little while we would get in the car. My mama would drive the car into town. We would park the car and get out and go into a store. And as soon as we got in that store, you know what my mama would say? "Don't touch anything. There's not one thing in this store that belongs to you, so you don't need to mess with it. If you can't control those little hands, put them way down in your pockets and leave them in there till we go back outside. You don't need to look at it. You don't need to think about it because we're not going to get it." And then after all that, you know what she would do? She would get something. And I would say, "I thought we weren't going to get anything." And she would say, "That was you, not me." Well, pretty soon, if she wanted to go shopping without me, here's what she would do. Wait a minute, 5 years old. Could she leave me home by myself? Of course not. Could she leave me in the car by myself? Of course not. So she wanted to go without me. Early in the morning, she would get the telephone and she would call, a babysitter. And it was always the same person. It was always my Aunt Esther. Now, Aunt Esther was my daddy's little sister. That's why she's my aunt, right? And she was married to Uncle Mark, but they didn't have any children, so she liked to borrow me. I loved to go to her house, and I loved it when she came to our house. You see, my mother would get all ready to go shopping, and then we'd get in the car, and we'd go out to Aunt Esther's house. And on the way, my mama would say, "Now you be good. You know how to be good. You have to be good. You better be." They have to say that, don't they? And then she would leave me at Aunt Esther's house, and she would go to town. And as soon as she was gone, you know what Aunt Esther and I would do? We'd go to town. And we would go to every store where I wanted to go, and I could touch everything. I could play with toys. I could pick things up. I could open packages. I could try things on. But the best thing was I could whine and beg. Because if you whine and beg, what happens? You get something. Well, a day came along, which was my birthday. It was the actual day when I was going to be 6 years old. We got up that morning. We hadn't even had breakfast yet when all of a sudden, the telephone rang. My mother said, "Who's calling us before breakfast?" I bet you know who it was, don't you? It was Aunt Esther calling my mother to ask if I could spend my whole birthday with her. Do you know my mama liked to get rid of me even on my birthday? So we got in the car. We headed out to Aunt Esther's house. "You be good. Now you have to be good. You better be good." And then my mama left me there. And as soon as she was gone back home, you know where Aunt Esther and I went? To town. Now we went to my favorite store. It was a store that had the most toys of any store. And I was playing with toys, and she came up and she said, "Now, you may play with everything. But," she said, "I have already decided what to get you. I've been thinking about this for a long time." And she handed me this little box. It was about this big. It was dark green on the bottom and dark green on the top. And around the middle, there was this part that was yellow, like the color of a yellow pencil. And it had words on it, but I was only 6 years old and I couldn't read those words. But later on, I learned to read those words. And it said, Crayola crayons, 64 colors. Oh, you could open the little slanty lid of that box. There was a whole little row of bright, sharp crayons like a rainbow. Right above and behind them, another row like a rainbow. Right above and behind them, another row. 64 colors. And if you turned the box around, down on the back of that box, there was a little hole in the box. You know what that was? Yeah, the sharpener. Where later on I learned how to sharpen my crayons and then open the bottom of the box so I could get that stuff out and eat it. And you know, every color tasted the same. Well, we got those crayons and went back out to her house, and she said, I'm going to go in the kitchen and fix your birthday cake. While I'm doing that, why don't you, she thought for a minute, she said, why don't you keep your crayons in the living room and draw pictures? I thought, oh boy, this will be fun. Well, she left me in there. She went in the kitchen. Wait a minute. Let's stop and think about this. 6 years old. In the living room, 64 crayons. And she only gave me about 10 pieces of paper. That lasted about 4 minutes. And then I needed more paper. But I thought, you know, she's working on my cake. I better not bother her. I'm just going to look all around and see if I can find some paper. I searched all over that living room and there was just no paper. But that was okay because by then I'd seen a really good place to draw pictures. On the walls in their living room, they had beautiful, big, framed pictures. There was one. It was a mountain with a big waterfall coming down the side. There was another picture. It was 2 horses galloping through the meadow. There was another picture. It was islands out in the ocean with a big sailing ship coming around those islands. But do you know, on the other side of that room, on the whole wall, there were no pictures. I thought, she needs a picture over there. I'll take care of it. And I went over there with my brand new box of crayons. I pulled up a chair. I climbed up in that chair. And right on the wall where it needed to go, I drew a big picture of my Aunt Esther out in a flower garden. Do you know why I put her in a flower garden? Because I wanted to use all 64 colors. And I did. I gave her white teeth and red lips and blue eyes and yellow hair. I drew flowers and flowers and flowers and flowers. I drew so many flowers I forgot to draw any clothes. But finally, I just covered her up with a big fat purple bathrobe, and then she didn't look like little sticks anymore. And when I got finished, it was so beautiful. I took the little gold crayon and I made a perfect little squared frame around the picture right on the wall. And when it was perfectly done, I could not wait to go show her what I'd made. When she saw the picture, you know what she said? Oh, that is the most beautiful picture I have ever seen in the whole entire world. And I never knew I'd done anything wrong till my mama came to get me. It was way in the afternoon. By now I'd had a little nap, and I was in the kitchen watching Aunt Esther fix the candles on my birthday cake. I heard my mom's car come crunching in the driveway, and I thought, ooh, I'm going to run in the living room and let my mama in so she could see the most beautiful picture of the whole entire world. And I ran in there and opened the door and turned around. Remember the picture I drew? You couldn't see it. Do you know what my Aunt Esther had done? While I was taking my nap, she had taken the picture of the horses down from the wall, and you know what she did with it? She moved it across the room and used it to cover up where I drew on the wall. Do you know, to this very day, my mama still doesn't know I did that. You think Aunt Esther saved a little boy's life? And the next time I was going to her house, she called on the telephone and she said I could come, but I did not need to bring back the crayons. Now here's my question for you before we go. Anybody here ever mark, write, paint, color, or draw on the wall or anywhere else where you shouldn't have done it? If you have, guess what you have? You have a story nobody else could tell. So long.